Okay, hello Facebook, hello social media, hello people wherever you are watching this. I'm doing a series of videos with the faculty for the 2024-25 AJC Coaching Career School, and it's a real honor to start the series with my former coach, the guy known as the Godfather of Coaching, but also someone who really is the godfather of the coaching school. It's Steve Chandler. Hi, Steve.
Hi, Kush. Thanks for talking to me. I appreciate it. I haven't seen you in a long time.
Yeah, thank you. It's we used to speak so regularly. You were my coach for 8.5 years, and so much of what I've learned and share in the coaching school is directly from the numerous coaching sessions that we've had. And so it's a real honor for you to be involved in the school. Really, the school was conceived through our work together, and I know we spent a full day and a half in Michigan creating the school, and it's been such a joy to implement on our vision and really have your guidance to create something that's really changing the coaching industry.
Well, it's my honor, so thank you.
So you're doing, I think, our first masterclass on this cohort before you fully retire from active coaching and spend more time writing. And I've got to say, if anyone hasn't read at least one Steve Chandler book, do yourself a favor and buy a book and read it. They're all fantastic. I love all of Steve's books, so I'm looking forward to reading more of them as they come out. But I thought, whilst we can't give everyone obviously the 2 hour masterclass, we wanted to give them a feel for that. And I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about your journey as a coach and the things that you've learned along the way, because I think the masterclass is really going to focus a lot on that. Because people assume when they see coaches like yourself who are very successful and have been doing it for a very long time that it just either came naturally or you got there very quickly. But I know that's not the case.
No, I made all kinds of mistakes in my early months and years as a coach. It was mainly fear-based. I had a lot of debts financially, so every potential client represented a bill to be paid or food on the table. At the time, I was a single father with full custody of 4 very adventurous children whose job it was to create chaos in my world and challenge me on a daily basis. So they were also very needy, these kids. Psychologically, they were divas, prima donnas. They required shelter and food, clothing, no end to what they wanted from me as a parent. So I had that going on, and then I had this coaching profession. And looking back, it was a fear-based life. And when I wasn't in total panic, I shifted into just anxiety and neurosis. And that was what was going on. And it was catastrophic when it comes to building a prosperous coaching practice. It just wasn't working. So in your school, I'm going to share that journey as quickly as I can. If I stay too long on the past and the fear-based portion of my coaching career, it gets pretty depressing for people. So you'll have people dropping off the call left and right and seeking some relief from this story. So I'm going to be brief about that. But I want to talk to your attendees and your guests and students in the school about what I learned over time and how doable it was to shift from fear-based to love and happiness and lightheartedness and creativity. I was not creative when I started. I was very reactive.
So, how did you make that shift? Because it sounds wonderful to go from one way of operating in the world, which is coming from fear and reactivity. And I'm sure if most coaches are honest, they've been there. I know I've been there. But what was the shift that helped you go from that to operating, I'm guessing, more from flow and ease?
The shift for me was coaching itself, being coach during this period of time. I used to have, before there was coaching in the world, I had a therapist by the name of Nathaniel Brandon. And he helped me after I went through addiction recovery and all the problems I created for myself prior to having my kids. He really helped me get my feet on the ground and start a career and all of that without the help of addictive substances. That was job one in my life. But then to create a coaching career, I lucked out and I met a guy who who you know, Steve Hardison. I met him in a company I was working in. I was marketing director for a corporate training company, and Steve Hardison had been hired as an internal consultant and trainer of the sales staff and trainer of the leadership team internally. So I got to know him there. And when I went out on my own to be a coach, I hired him to coach me, because I was missing a lot of pieces that I needed in my life internally to create this career that I wanted to try to create. I didn't think it would work. So it was being open and vulnerable to coaching was what worked for me. And I always remembered Nathaniel Branden used to say, if you ever want to teach anything, you must become what you teach, or it won't work. It won't land. You can't just teach theories of things, teach ideas and concepts and have it really land. It has to be your own direct experience that you're teaching other people, or they won't listen, and it won't really move them in any way if you haven't been through it. So then with my coach, he was able to show me all these areas of my life that I was underdeveloped. I had tremendous money fears, money issues. And so my greatest fears were with money and with talking to people I didn't know. Now, if you have a real deep phobia around money, managing it, acquiring it, thinking about it, facing it, and a fear of talking to other people, that's hard to build a coaching practice on those two fears. So he worked with me on that really deeply, confrontationally, but with a lot of love and created a lot of safety so that I could be really vulnerable. So that was the turning point. I think any coach who doesn't have a coach is missing out on what it really takes to succeed in this career. It's an apprentice-based career. And there are things like your school that really give people a tremendous boost. It affects a quickening so that what might have taken 5 years, if they'll really dive in to the principles you teach in your school, it might only take 1 year. That's good. That wasn't around when I was learning. There wasn't anything like your school. So that's what happened. I got coached. And that allowed me to start talking about coaching from the certainty of how workable it was, from the certainty of how effective it was, because I knew for myself.
Thanks. It's so great that you mentioned Nathaniel Branden, because one of the books you shared with me when we were coaching was Taking Responsibility by Nathaniel Branden. And that's one of the books that's on the curriculum this year, which kind of indirectly has come from yourself and the coaching that we did together. One of the things that I love about the way that I've created the school, and again, you really helped me see this, was that so much of the school isn't just for coaches. So when you talk about you need to become the thing that you're teaching, this school isn't just about systems and strategies, which we've got some wonderful systems and strategies to share with people, but it's a deeper pointing to really being the coach that someone would want to hire and that can really help people, which is what a lot of the work that we did together has really helped me with. And I remember there was a moment when we were having a coaching session many years ago. And I remember thinking, wow, everything that Steve's coaching me on, these are the same things that had I stayed in a corporate profession, I would have needed to shift if I was to be really successful in that profession. And there was part of me that was thinking, oh, I can avoid some of the stuff that my blind spots over here and do coaching because, it's easier somehow or it's more rewarding. And I got to see, well, no, you can't really avoid the work wherever you go if you want to be truly successful. So I know in the masterclass, you're going to be sharing some of those for you, but could you give us a feel maybe just for one or two of what were some of the areas for you that you had to shift in terms of the way you were operating in the world before you could go effectively teach and help people?
I think the biggest area, Kush, was moving out of focusing on myself, moving out of trying to brand myself or trying to talk about myself and staying trapped in the ego and expanding my time and attention, my creativity out toward the work and the person receiving the work. And when I began on a daily basis practicing focusing on the life of my potential client and the thoughts and fears and the belief system that was holding my potential client back from the life she or he or they wanted, then it went well. Then my fear went away and my creativity showed up. My intuition began to play in a very positive way. And when I backslid, when I went back to fear, it was always focusing on me. What am I doing wrong? Who am I? Like, for example, I used to equate whether someone wanted to work with me. I made it all about me. Like, am I worth, if they said no to working together, somehow subconsciously I made that mean I'm not worth spending time with. And that made everything about psychology and me wondering, who am I and am I worthy? Do I deserve money? Do I deserve to, am I worthy of charging a high fee? Who am I? And it was all so self-centered that I'd get trapped. And when I broke out of that and started to look, what do they want? How important is it for them to have the change they're telling me they want to have? How important to them is it? Not whether I can control it or make it happen. Everything went so much better. And when somebody said no, because I wasn't making it about me anymore, all that meant was, okay, they are one of 8 billion people on the planet who would like their lives changed. Everyone wants that. And so there's no shortage of people I can work with. Even if I needed money to pay my bills, I didn't need their money. And that was an awakening for me, and it made it so much easier. It was just, I even learned to love it when someone said, no, I won't be working with you. And I'd say, fine, okay, are we complete? And I'll be here for you if you change or want to access this work. If and when you do, I want you to know the work works. It worked for me anyway. And I felt great. I didn't feel, oh, rejection. I've been reminded once again that I'm a loser, that people don't want to spend time with. And this profession, like you said, looked so easy. It looked like multi-level marketing. It's a Ponzi scheme. It's easy. It's fun. I hope people don't catch me at it. It's so easy. And it's not that at all. It's a profession like any other profession that pays this kind of money. It's like being a lawyer, like being a doctor, and it requires the same kind of time and attention, but nobody enters those fields filled with fear and making everything about themselves. They just learn what's necessary to learn and they apply it. And coaches can do the same, as you know.
Yeah, I love what you share there. In both the last two cohorts of the school, very early on, something that I shared was I got everyone to do an exercise where I said, if you're going to work full time as a coach, and I said, pick a date when you're going to retire. So for some people, that could be in 10 years' time. For some, it's 20 or 30 years. I said, now let's estimate how many clients you would work with over that time, given that a number of people are going to renew with you. And the number's always a lot smaller than people anticipate. So, people end up with a number of like, let's say roughly between 2 and 500. Now, that might sound like a lot, but when you put it in the context that over decades, it's going to be a few hundred people that you would closely work with, and you put that in the context, like you say, 8 billion people, it's not that many. And I think other professions have that built in, doctors, lawyers, accountants, that they know they're not too bothered about someone going down the road to someone else because they can't work with everyone else. And in coaching, I think when we understand, like you say, it's about learning what you need to do and then just implement. I think that's really the key. Once people learn what that is, then you can really understand, oh, there's actually not that many. And I think that the switch that you helped me make, and I believe people will get this after listening to your masterclass, is it's not about how do I find clients per se, but it becomes more about filtering between who do I actually want to work with and where do I want to put my time and attention to create. Because when I started out, it was just like, oh, anyone and everyone. I didn't really know what I was doing. And then over time, it became clearer that, okay, I could potentially create clients in numerous places, implementing what you had taught me. But instead, I now needed to be more focused to create what I wanted, clients I really wanted to work with. That was a real
Yeah.
big game changer.
It's a process of growing up. And what you said earlier is really true, that what coaches have to learn, end up enjoying learning. It's not like it's a grind and it's horrible and I had to do it. They enjoy it once they get into it. When they think of it ahead of time, it looks overwhelming, but it's not. If you live one day at a time and just do what you can do that day, it works. And you end up growing up, becoming more mature in a positive way. So I had this fear of growing up all through my teenage years and 20s and college, and I went in the army, and I had this fear of being, I just didn't think I could do it. I didn't have the tools. I didn't have the qualities that I saw other grown-ups have. And it looked boring and like there's too much discipline involved in growing up. I didn't realize that there was really a thrill to that journey. There's really satisfaction. And that you can actually be more lighthearted and creative the more you grow up and relax into your profession. And people who learn that through learning to become a professional coach, it has applications everywhere, like you said, especially in things like parenting, for example. I learned so many things from being coached about the psychology of children and people, positive reinforcement versus negative scolding and criticism, all the kinds of things that I wouldn't have learned had it not been for coaching. They really helped me in parenting. And our parents give us a recipe for happiness. Most of our parents, their recipe doesn't work and the reason it doesn't work is because of what Nathaniel Branden said: you must become what you teach. And I know my parents were teaching me how to be happy and fulfilled and have a good life, but they were miserable. They were always nervous about money and always anxious and unfulfilled and regretting the past and fearing the future. And all the while telling me, follow our recipe. I'll tell you what to do. Go to college, get married, and do this and do that. And the recipe, the kids could see, we could see, well, that recipe doesn't work because it didn't work for you. Why are you teaching it to me?
Thank you. That's so powerful. I've never heard you describe it like that, or I certainly haven't heard it like that. But growing up and equating that to being more light-hearted and fun, and it really reminds me of a change I made just over a year ago, was finally growing up around nutrition, because I'd been avoiding it for so many years of my life, and it was easy in my mind to be a kid and just eat junk food and not really look after myself. And in my head, I'd created it as this big like chore, and if I was to finally turn that around, it would be difficult. And don't get me wrong, it's required work. I'm not saying it's been just like super easy. And where I am now, I actually enjoy my food way more than I did, and you couldn't pay me to go back. So even some people call it like, oh, you can have a cheat day, and I'm able to have like some of the junk food that I used to. I don't want to eat it anymore, and it's strange. It's changed me. So, and that's been my experience in my work with you and work with other coaches, how as we address the things that are our blind spots, we think it's going to be difficult and hard. And yes, it might be a little bit of kind of growing pains, but at the other end of it, we create a life which is so much better, right? It's more enjoyable to have a life where my relationship with my spouse is better than when it's not. It's much
Yeah.
enjoyable to have a life where my kids are, I'm being a better parent, should I say, than I'm arguing or fighting with my kids all the time.
I agree.
Beautiful. I really can't wait for the masterclass. I'm really excited. And I'm also a little sad that it will be the last one that you're doing, because then you're going to enter into full retirement. But I'm so, so, so grateful to you, Steve. I'm so blessed that you really helped and encouraged me to create the school, and you've been so supportive of it over the last few years, and you've agreed to come back this third time. So really, really thank you. Is there anything you want to say before we wrap up this short video?
No, I'm just really looking forward to being at your school for one last time. It's a nice way to end my career of active teaching and coaching, and I'll be moving into my new career of full-time writing, which I've always wanted to do. I've always had to write my books in between sessions and fit them in somewhere. I've always dreamed of waking up and writing all day, so I'm looking forward to it. It's not a sad situation. It's really encouraging, and it'll be fun to finish off at your school in September.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Steve, for today. Thank you for everything. And please do leave comments below from what you've taken from this. And it's really, really great. I read all the comments. So thank you so much.